What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Now Vegas down by as many as 14. Energized by the crowd, Cam Bates. Yes!
20 seconds, Nate. Hurry up, Nate. 16. Get them going, Nate. Let's go.
You're now in NHL City.
Won by Vegas, but the shot was blocked by Schwartz, or at least it glanced off him, and then going through the middle of the ice. Tarasenko's got Shen on his right.
You're listening to the MeanGene Show on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. And now, here's your host, MeanGene.
Good evening, Las Vegas. Welcome to the MeanGene Show here on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM Las Vegas. I hope you are having a great weekend. We have a great show planned for you tonight. The NFL Draft is Thursday, April 29th in Cleveland, Ohio. We're going to take a look at the AFC West and see what the Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers might do in this draft as it relates to their needs. Later on in the show, Jeff Lambert, Sr., a.k.a. Mr. Pigs, and I will look at the over and under as it relates to overall wins in the AFC West. So you might be asking, well, what are we talking about? Well, we are going to project who's going to win 9 or more games this year in the AFC West. And we'll also talk about how they finished last year. So this is going to be very interesting because, and we have to take into consideration the draft and free agency. So that's how we're going to do that. So make sure you listen to that a little bit later on in the show. So in case you missed it, on Thursday, the NFL announced that full schedules, including dates and times, will be released on Wednesday, May 12th. Mark this down, folks. This is going to be a huge moment on Wednesday, May 12th. This is when we know what dates teams are going to play who. I mean, this is also going to be a nationally televised event, as it always is, because it's exciting and it just sort of, gets everyone pumped up for football, especially that the fact that it takes place after the draft. So all we have to do is just wait until training camps mini camps. Wait a minute, OTAs, mini camps, training camps, and all of that stuff. And remember, too, the NFL season is 17 games this year. Now, normally we would already know those teams' dates and times and all of that stuff. But because of the 17th game that was agreed upon just a few weeks ago, this is why there's a delay in the release of the NFL schedules. So like I say, it's always an exciting moment because, the NFL announced this year, or Commissioner Goodell announced this year, that he expects NFL stadiums to be full. And this is, believe me, a major milestone from last year. And we talked about it on the MeanGene Show on our podcast on iHeartRadio, that the fact that some teams, I thought it was an unfair advantage. Some teams were able to have fans in the stands. Some teams were not. I think the Dallas Cowboys at one particular time had maybe 25% of their capacity. Remember, that stadium holds 110,000 people damn near. So, I mean, it was just unfair in a sense. So, whereas some stadiums like Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas, where the Raiders are playing, did not have any fans. Same thing with SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. So it's just going to be exciting, especially for these brand new stadiums. Those are the 2 newest stadiums in the league. And I know Rams, Charger fans are just waiting to get into that stadium. Raider fans are just dying to get into Allegiant Stadium. I want to get into that stadium, folks, because it is nice. If you have flew into Vegas recently, you know what I'm talking about. There's no way you can miss that stadium, regardless of what side of the plane you're on, because I think it turns around to where you can get a good view of that stadium. You will see that stadium. And even when you land, get your in a car or whatever, limousine, and ride in Las Vegas, you're going to see that stadium. It is a monumental landmark now here. Amidst all of the casinos that are in Las Vegas, you will not miss this stadium. It is it's incredible. So the fact that fans will be there, and of course now you can expect that the NFL and stadiums will release some sort of mask requirement. I mean, I know certain states are it's not mandated anymore. Or if you're at federal facilities, it is mandated. And I think the NFL is going to take the approach that, okay, well, assume that everyone is not vaccinated, and we know that that is the case, but a mask is probably going to be required. But still, think about stadium workers. They will now be able to go and make money, which, last year I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers Cleveland Browns game, and that stadium holds about, 73,000, maybe 75,000 people. Only 5,000 people were allowed in that stadium. And I remember talking to one of the stadium workers, and I usually tip very generous. I mean, I just think that it's the wise thing to do when someone is providing a service and they do a good job. You should always tip. Now, I'm not going to tell you how much, and I know there's a requirement, 15, 20%, whatever the case may be, but it's just always wise to give someone something. And I think I went above and beyond in Pittsburgh because I just really felt bad. I mean, you had stadium workers there, no lines at the concession stands. And, that was just kind of disheartening to see. But I'm probably more excited about the fact that not only will fans get a chance to go to these stadiums, but the stadium workers will, be able to take home a full paycheck. And I just think that's going to be great. And I think that, like I said, mask will be required for the entire season unless just, something drastic happens where the CDC says, hey, we're in the clear or this, that, and the other. So that's going to be exciting. But nevertheless, mark it down on your calendar, Wednesday, May 12th. The NFL will announce the dates, the full schedules. They will release the full schedules, the 17th game and all of that great stuff, dates and times and all of that is going to take place. Also, later on in the show, folks, the NBA season, which was shortened last year due to COVID-19. So there were only 72 games scheduled this year. And as of today, I think there are roughly 12 games left in the NBA regular season. And the NBA playoffs are scheduled to begin Saturday, May 22nd, and we'll run through the end of July. I'm going to take a look at the current standings and see what potential playoff matchups might occur. Also, the NBA will continue with that play-in tournament that was introduced last year during the NBA bubble. I am going to explain how that play-in tournament works because it's very interesting and some folks really don't like it. But even with that play-in tournament last year down in Orlando at the bubble, the best two teams, in my opinion, made the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. Think about the Phoenix Suns, a team that didn't make the bubble, and look at them now and what they have accomplished. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But, I mean, hey, it is what it is. The NBA decided to go with it. The worst you can have is a 10-seed team getting in there and winning the whole damn championship, which I don't think is going to happen. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. So the MeanGene Show is brought to you by the Las Vegas Aces, Presidential Limousine by Kaptyn, and the Westgate Resort Casino and Sportsbook here in Las Vegas. So, as I mentioned earlier, the NFL draft will take place next Thursday, April 29th in Cleveland. Now, last year was scheduled to be held here in Las Vegas, but was canceled due to COVID-19. But no worries, Vegas. Guess what? It will be here next year, 2023. The NFL draft will take place in Las Vegas. I mean, the NFL had major plans for that draft last year to take place in Vegas, but the pandemic just overshadowed all of that. But I am so happy that they decided to, just kind of postpone it. And next year, Vegas will get their take. But this year, it's all about Cleveland, Ohio, and it's going to be exciting. I mean, you know what? For those teams that did not make the playoffs or teams that made the playoffs but came up short of winning the Super Bowl, I mean, the NFL draft, along with free agent signings, is that golden opportunity to improve your chances of getting to the Super Bowl or at least having a much better season. So last year in the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, 14-2 overall in the regular season, was the only team to make the playoffs from the AFC West. I mean, they got all the way to the Super Bowl Bowl before losing to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. But the Raiders, the Broncos, and Chargers did not qualify for the postseason. The Raiders finished, I believe it was 8-8. The Chargers were 7-9. And the Broncos were 5-11. And another thing that makes the NFL draft so interesting is that a team may not always pick based on their immediate needs. Remember, free agency also offers teams an opportunity to improve and sort of, show up where they might have a need. So, tell you what, let's just take a look at what the teams in the AFC West will need in this NFL draft. Let's start with the Las Vegas Raiders, who finished the season 8-8, so close to making the NFL playoffs. Here's what they did in free agency. They signed Yannick Ngakoue, defensive end from the Minnesota Vikings. They also signed John Brown. He's a wide receiver from the Buffalo Bills. Nicholas Morrow, linebacker. He re-signed with the Raiders. So did Jonathan Hankins, defensive tackle. He resigned, and Zay Jones, a wide receiver, resigned with the Raiders. Now, he should see more playing time, unlike Aguilar, who is no longer with the team. I couldn't resist that, folks. But Denzel Good, offensive tackle, resigned with the Raiders also, which should continue to improve their offensive line. So what do the Raiders need out of this draft? Okay, so we mentioned they came so close to making the playoffs last year. The Miami Dolphins got in their way. And, oh, my goodness, or the Raiders themselves got in the way. I don't know, however you want to look at it, but who can forget that spectacular last-minute finish by the Dolphins and Ryan Fitzmagic? I mean, sorry, I didn't really mean to bring up old wounds, but the Raiders have the 17th overall pick in the first round of next week's draft. So all eyes would be on them to make sure they get it right now. Many think they will likely choose an offensive lineman to complement what they already have and provide some protection for quarterback Derek Carr. So I think there are a lot of options out there for the offensive line. So it will be interesting to see what the Las Vegas Raiders are going to do. I mean, come on. We just said the NFL is going to open up stadiums and there are going to be teams. And, an 8-8 finish last year. And believe me, I really thought the Raiders were going to get in there, but I think I like what they did in free agency, and I do believe there is a chance for improvement. I know Raider Nation cannot wait to get into that stadium. The black hole is waiting to get in that stadium, and I think, when you add all of the elements that are coming into the 2021 season, I think playoff opportunities for the Raiders are going to look a lot better than what they did last year. So let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers finished the season 7-9 and replaced former head coach Anthony Lynn, and hired Brandon Staley. So this will be his first year at the helm of head coach for the Chargers. Now, Justin Herbert had a great rookie season. As a matter of fact, he was named the 2020 Rookie of the Year. So this is really good for the Chargers. And in free agency, the Chargers made a little bit of noise, including signing Jared Cook, the former tight end for the New Orleans Saints, to replace Hunter Henry, who is now a member of the New England Patriots. I didn't really support the firing of Anthony Lynn. I just felt that because of the circumstances and everything that took place last year, you had the pandemic, then you had that unbelievable injury to Tyrod Taylor. I mean, just imagine you go in for a painkiller and the team doctor accidentally punctures your lung. And Tyrod Taylor was supposed to be the starter for the Chargers last year, but because of that incident, he did not, which opened the door for Justin Herbert, which, hey, I got to say, things happen, and the next man up mentality is what the NFL is all about. And Justin Herbert came in and did not disappoint, but also felt that because of the situation and working with such a rookie year, I mean, Justin Herbert does not win the 2020 Offensive Rookie of the Year without the help of his head coach, Anthony Lynn. So for the Chargers to decide that they wanted to go in a different direction, they were not going to win the AFC West last year. But at the same time, I think you have to give some sort of credit to Anthony Lynn and what he was able to do for the Chargers. But that's the NFL. It's all about what have you done for me lately. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the Chargers might do in this draft. Well, let's first look and see what they did for free agent signings in 2021. They picked up Matt Filer from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he's coming off a pectoral injury that he suffered in Week 14 with the Steelers. So that should be a much-needed addition to the Chargers. Michael Davis, cornerback, he re-signed with the Chargers. Michael Badgley, the kicker, he also re-signed with the Chargers. Chase Daniels, quarterback, not a bad pick. I mean, it's hard to believe Chase Daniels has been in the league for 12 years and has played for 8 different teams. But he does have a Super Bowl ring. He got that with the Eagles back in 2016. Oday Abouche, guard from the Detroit Lions, he is now with the Los Angeles Chargers, and they also re-signed Steven Anderson to a 1-year contract. Now, the Chargers have the 13th overall pick in this draft. So, I mean, over the last couple of years, the Chargers haven't done so bad in these drafts. I mean, look. Back, 2018, Derwin James, who was an All-Pro, Joey Bosa, 2016, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and last year's Justin Herbert, the 2020 Offensive Rookie of the Year. So they're on the right track, and it's going to be interesting to see what Tim Telesco and Brandon Staley, the new head coach, is going to do. But I would say their needs right now would probably be to find the best available offensive lineman and maybe cornerback that they could have. That offensive lineman is definitely going to help Justin Herbert. I mean, a lot of things he did on his own, but just imagine having a good offensive line for such a young quarterback will take that offense in the Chargers a long way. So let's move on to the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos finished dead last in the AFC West with a record of 5-11. You would think with a record like that, they would pretty much need every damn thing in this upcoming NFL draft. But they did make a little noise in free agency. They were able to get Kyle Fuller, cornerback. He played with the Bears last season. They were also able to re-sign Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. Those are some pretty big names that will continue to be Broncos. Shelby Harris also re-signed with the Broncos, and Ronald Darby, cornerback, came over from the Washington football team. And they also signed another cornerback, Nate Hairston. He will also continue to be with the Denver Broncos. So John Elway, early in the year, decided to step down from his role as general manager of the Broncos, but now he is going to remain as team president of football operations, which is, I mean, is that not still calling the shots? I mean, just because you are not the GM, it removes you from, making some of those player decisions, but yet you're going to hire a general manager and you're going to tell him what to do. So it's just kind of shocking. I mean, I know John Elway is not going to step away from the Denver Broncos altogether. I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit for bringing in Peyton Manning a few years ago and winning that Super Bowl. So the Denver Broncos have a lot of work to do with this team. So some of their draft choices as far as positions, I mean, they are going to draft at number 9, and there should be some pretty good picks out there. But, they're probably going to be looking at a quarterback, which to come in and compete for the job. I mean, Drew Lock is probably not the future quarterback for the Denver Broncos. They're probably going to be looking at linebackers. They're probably going to be looking at some cornerbacks as well. And I already mentioned quarterback, so that's probably what the Broncos are going to do. And they really do need a lot of help. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Broncos are going to be competitive in 2021. This draft will tell us everything. Now on to the Kansas City Chiefs, the AFC defending champions, back-to-back Super Bowls, win one, lose one. And the one thing I can take from the Super Bowl last year or earlier this year, I was in Tampa, Florida, and had a chance to do pregame interviews with the Buccaneers and post-game interviews with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I remember talking to Andrew Wiley, who was a guard for the Kansas City Chiefs, and we talked about, what was the plan coming out of that game in the second half. And I remember him telling me that, well, we really wanted to get on the board and just kind of go from there. They didn't get on the board. Patrick Mahomes was being chased all over the field by the Buccaneers defense, and things just kind of went south for the Chiefs. So now, and then there was the incident with Andy Reid's son, who I believe was involved in some sort of accident involving a child, and it looks like he's going to maybe get some jail time. So, I mean, it just really has been a long off season for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they were able to make a little noise in free agency. And here are some of the things that they were able to do in free agency. They picked up former New England Patriots guard Joe Thuney, who should be a great asset to the team. They also picked up Kyle Long. He was a guard, former Chicago Bears guard, who actually retired in 2020, but somehow the Chiefs talked him back into the league. Now, if you remember the names Long, well, Kyle Long's father was former Raiders Hall of Famer Howie Long, and his brother, Chris Long, also played in the NFL. And I remember interviewing Kyle Long as a rookie when I was covering the Chicago Bears at their training camp in Bourbonnais, Illinois. Austin Blythe, center, comes over from the Rams. Jaron Reed, defensive tackle, last year he was with the Seattle Seahawks. DeMarcus Robinson is back as a wide receiver with the Chiefs. So is Daniel Sorensen, the safety, who also returns to the Chiefs. And Taco Charlton, a defensive end, he returns and will try to make a name for himself after having unsuccessful seasons with the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins. So, when Patrick Mahomes signed that big contract, that massive contract worth over $500 million, and I said, okay, well, that's a lot of money, even though it's a long-term contract that will probably make him a Chief for life. But I also wondered if they were going to be able to obtain any big name free agencies or have money to pay some of their re-sign some of the other players, which they were able to do. And then the Chiefs also were able to get Patrick Mahomes to restructure some of his signing bonus. So that made it a little bit possible and allowed for additional money for the team to have to spend in free agency. So anyway, you might be asking, well, what do the Chiefs need? What do they need in free agency? And I think not free agency, but what would they need in the draft? And I think they will probably select a wide receiver. I think, they certainly like to pass the ball a lot, so I can see them adding a little bit more depth at the wide receiver position. And, of course, they will have someone on that offensive line to protect their franchise quarterback. I mean, they spent a lot of money on Patrick Mahomes, and they definitely don't want to see him on his rear end. I mean, I'm still shaking my head over that big contract. That was a whopping contract. So what, $503 million for like 10 years and just loaded with a lot of incentives, but at the same time, the Chiefs made it clear that they wanted Patrick Mahomes to be their quarterback for life. So next Thursday night, whatever you do, make plans to sit for a few hours. And one of the other funny things about the NFL draft is the commissioner who continues to get booed for everything. And I don't know if there was a time when the commissioner ever got an applaud for anything. Maybe the 17th game, maybe as he makes his announcement that the league is going to play 17 games, he might get some hoorah. Or maybe if he mentions about, hey, we're going to open up the stadiums and welcome back to the NFL. I mean, but it doesn't matter with Roger Goodell. Whatever he does or says, I mean, it's just a known thing. I think the Eagles fans may have started this because they are the roughest fans in all of football. But we will be sitting somewhere in front of a television. I know I will, watching the NFL draft. The first round takes place on that Thursday night, and the second round, I believe, will be the next night. So, I mean, it goes on and on. But the main round, of course, is the first round where everyone wants to see what's going to happen. So we are going to get ready to go to break. And when we come back, we will certainly talk a little bit about the NBA. Actually, we're going to talk a lot about the NBA because we're getting down to the wire. Things are heating up there Remember, there's a play-in tournament and all that stuff. We're going to talk about all that at the break. So stick around. I want you to also stick around for Jeff Lambert Sr., a.k.a. Mr. Picks, as we talk more about the NFL and the AFC West, actually, and what we think is going to happen as far as wins. How many games you think the Chiefs are going to win? How many games will the Raiders win? Will they win over 8 or 9 games? So once again, folks, you're listening to the Mean Gene Show here on KDWN 720 AM 101.5 FM here in Las Vegas.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Now Vegas down by as many as 14. Energized by the crowd. Cam Bates.
20 seconds, Nate. Hurry up, Nate. 16. Get them going, Nate. Let's go.
You're now in NHL City.
Won by Vegas, but the shot was blocked by Schwartz, or at least it glanced off him, and then going through the middle of the ice. Tarasenko's got Shen on his right.
Once again, you're listening to the Mean Gene Show on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
And we are back. Once again, you're listening to the Mean Gene Show here on KDWN 720 AM 101.5 FM. The Mean Gene Show is sponsored by the Westgate Las Vegas Resort Sportsbook and Casino. If you live in Las Vegas, you already know they have the largest sportsbook in Las Vegas, comfortable seating all over the place. I mean, you just can't miss those huge jumbo screens. They also have a sportsbook app that I highly recommend you download while you're in Vegas, the Westgate Sportsbook. It's the best seat for every game. We're also brought to you by Presidential Limousine by Kaptyn. When you land in Vegas from wherever you're coming from, forget the rental car. You have to experience the full Las Vegas touch, and the only way you're going to do that is by riding in a limousine. Not just any limousine, but Presidential Limousine by Kaptyn. Whether you're going straight to the hotel or cruising the Las Vegas Strip, do it in style. Do it in a Presidential Limousine. Visit their website at presidentiallimoLV.com. I know I haven't talked much NBA here on the show, but that is all about to change, folks, especially now that we're nearing the end of a shortened 72-game regular season. I believe there's roughly 12 or 13 games remaining, and the NBA playoffs are set to begin May 22nd. That's a Saturday. And the Mean Gene Show is planning to kick off the playoffs at the Westgate Resort Casino and Sportsbook on Friday, May 20th. With a live podcast at the Sportsbook. More details coming on that event. But in the meantime, things are heating up in the Eastern and Western conferences of the NBA. So why don't we start with the East right now? I'm looking at the Eastern Conference standings right now, and the Philadelphia 76ers hold that number 1 seed for now. They have lost 3 straight, and they have the Brooklyn Nets breathing down their backs. And one thing that has really hurt both of these teams, they're in a virtual tie right now, 39-20. The 76ers, like I said, they lost 3 in a row. Some inconsistent play. I mean, you never know what Philadelphia 76er team is going to show up night in, night out. But the Brooklyn Nets probably have a little bit more excuses for some of their losses of late, and that's because James Harden, who at one time it looked like he was coming back, and then he re-injured himself somehow. But Kevin Durant, who was expected to come back pretty soon, that's going to be interesting to see if he is able to hold up and be healthy. That's been one of the things that have plagued him in the past. But Kyrie Irving is leading this team. And that was something that we didn't see. We didn't think that there was going to be a leader. And I was watching a game the other night, and Kyrie Irving, I mean, this guy is getting it done. Now, Kyrie also has some issues that he's dealing with. I mean, there are times when he's out for personal reasons, and we can all understand that. But in order for the Brooklyn Nets to just really be the team that everyone wants them to be or think that they're going to be as far as representing the East and the NBA Finals, they have to establish some level of consistency, in my opinion. So we will keep an eye on that. But right now, like I said, they are in a virtual tie with the Philadelphia 76ers. I got to think that Brooklyn is probably going to get there, even without Harden. I think if you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the court, then I think that's enough to sort of get it done. And Blake Griffin, saw him the other night. He's playing well too. I mean, the Nets have just so many options there to work with, not only with their starters, Jeff Green. I mean, they just I mean, they are just really talented. Even after losing LaMarcus Aldridge, this team is still something to be reckoned with. The Milwaukee Bucks. Now, here's a team that, Miami Heat kicked them out of the playoffs last year in the bubble in Florida, but the Bucks are still a team to be respected. They are 2.5 games out of first place, so do not count the Bucks out. The surprising team, folks, in the Eastern Conference is the number 4 seed. The number 4 seed right now belongs to the New York Knicks. So how about this? When was the last time the New York area, Brooklyn area, had 2 teams that they could actually cheer for and make the playoffs at the same time? That's probably going to happen. The Knicks are the hottest team in the NBA right now. They've won 8 straight games. And let me introduce you or reintroduce you to the New York Knicks. Coach Tom Thibodeau, a name that you should be familiar with. Coach Tom Thibodeau coached the Chicago Bulls at one particular time, and then he went over to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and his style of coaching is very, very defensive oriented. And Derrick Rose is on the team. I believe he went and got Taj Gibson, some people that he could really trust as far as, playing the type of defense that he once played. Julius Randle is the bonus with this guy. Imagine Julius Randle was once the Los Angeles Lakers, and remember all those young studs that the Lakers had at one time. But, man, the New York Knicks. Now, as long as ownership can just stay out of their way, the Knicks will probably do well. As soon as management, for some reason opens their mouth, and it sort of just kind of gives the team a bad name. But right now, it's all about Tom Thibodeau and the New York Knicks. And watch out. Whoever plays the Knicks in the playoffs is going to be very exciting. And that, the Atlanta Hawks, who has the 5th seed right now, would actually play the New York Knicks if the playoffs started today. The 4-5 matchup in the NBA is always exciting. The Hawks, come on, Nate McMillan. What can we say about Nate McMillan that hasn't already been said? This guy is a good coach, has a new opportunity there. He was the assistant who got promoted, and Nate McMillan is he has put the Atlanta Hawks on the map. I mean, it's been a long time since the folks in Atlanta has been able to talk NBA playoffs. So looks like they're going to, get that done this year. I think they're probably going to stay in that 5th seed. Who knows? They might swap with the Boston Celtics, which is a team that was sort of up there in the standings, and they have dropped even after the free agency period with the NBA. I mean, the Celtics just didn't really, they just didn't really do anything, or they haven't really done anything since that. But they are in the 6th seed right now, followed by the Miami Heat. Now, the 7th and 8th seed, this is what we really need to talk about this, because I couldn't really tell you, like, if the playoffs were to start today, it's traditionally been the number 1 seed plays the 8th seed, the 2 plays the 7. And we have to kind of hold off on that right now, because the NBA is going to continue with the play-in tournament that they did during the bubble last year, which it made sense during the bubble, but it doesn't really make sense now that teams are playing in their own arenas. And but this is something that the NBA wanted to go with. So I want to really explain to you how this works, because there's basically 3 games that 3 additional play-in games. Game 1 is going to feature the number 17 in the standings by winning percentage. Will host the number 8 team, with the winner earning the number 7 seed. So they would lock it down. So whoever wins between the 7th and 8th seed. So looking at the Eastern Conference right now, that would be the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets. So let's just say if the Hornets, who is in that 8th seed, were to beat the Miami Heat in that 7th seed, then the Charlotte Hornets would be the 7th seed, and Miami would, which would be the losing team, would get another chance in Game 3. So now Follow me here because it gets even interesting. And then game 2 of the play-in tournament is going to feature the number 9 team will host the number 10 seeded team. So that 9th team right now is the Indiana Pacers, and that 10th seed is the Washington Wizards. So the Wizards would play the Pacers, okay, and the winner moving on to game 3. So the winner would play Miami, remember, because I said Miami lost to the Charlotte Hornets. So then when you get to game 3, and by the way, so the game 2 loser is eliminated and they become a lottery team. So in that particular case, if the Pacers or the Wizards was to lose that game, they would go ahead and be eliminated. But the winner, like I said, would go on to play Miami in the scenario that I gave you in game 3. So the loser of the number 7 versus number 8 matchup will host the winner of the number 9 versus 10 matchup. And then that winner basically becomes the 8th seed. And then you sort of get on into your regular NBA playoffs. So it's crazy. It's not necessarily something that a lot of teams like, a lot of coaches, a lot of players. Because it just really diminishes all the great efforts that a team, say, if you were a 10th or 11th seed, you fought your way to become the 8th seed, and now you're still not guaranteed to make the NBA playoffs because you have to, you do this play-in tournament. You can go from the 8th seed to a lottery pick, depending on the outcome of the play-in tournament. So, but the 4 and 5 is going to be, regular. That would be the Knicks and the Hawks if the playoffs were to start today. And the 3 and 6 would be the Bucks and the Celtics if the playoffs were to start today in the Eastern Conference. So the 3-6, 4-5 matchups are the only ones that we can really kind of say, well, they might be locked in here in the next couple of days. I think there's like 12 or 13 games remaining in the NBA regular season. So the Sixers and the Nets, who are probably going to remain at that 1 and 2 spot, although the Bucks are only 2.5 games out of first place, but they wouldn't know who they're going to play until that play-in tournament, which is, going to be quite interesting. So if we move it over to the Western Conference, the Utah Jazz has been steamrolling almost like a racehorse from gate to wire. They are 44-15, 2 games right now. In front of the Phoenix Suns, who has the 2 spot there. Another exciting team this year. It's just amazing what Chris Paul can do to help a team. You didn't see it in Houston as much, Oklahoma City. You saw it with the Clippers when he was there with Doc Rivers. But it looks like the Phoenix Suns with Monty Williams, a great guy, great coach. And the Phoenix Suns are just really shining right now. I don't really see them dropping no less than the number 3 seed, which now belongs to the Clippers. They are also playing great basketball. Have won 3 or 4 straight games in a row. The Denver Nuggets, the team who is holding on to that 4th seed right now, 5.5 games out of first place, and surprisingly have won 4 in a row. And remember, Jamal Murray, their point guard, went down. He's out for the season. So the Nuggets are still getting it done, and still a team that you have to respect. And they have a 4.5 game lead over the 5th seeded team, which is the Los Angeles Lakers. And all Laker fans know things about to change with the return of AD and LeBron James. And give it up to Dennis Schroeder, Andrew Drummond, Kyle Kuzma, that entire KCP, all of those guys for holding it down, because there were one particular time where there were talks that the Lakers would be part of the play-in tournament. Are you kidding me? There's no way. And they know that they couldn't really drop no further than the 6th spot, which right now belongs to the Portland Trail Blazers, another team that is sort of on the bubble. You can never get Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum, on the floor at the same time. Both of them has dealt with injuries this year. But, the Blazers is a team that if all of their horses are right there, they are going to be, they're not going to be an easy out in the playoffs. So the 7th seed right now, and this is where, it becomes interesting with that play-in tournament we talked about, because the Mavericks, the Grizzlies right now, the Mavericks are the 7th seed, the Grizzlies are the 8th seed. They could virtually not be part of this NBA playoffs. And I know the Mavericks were very adamant in, saying, hey, I mean, this is not fair that Mark Cuban, who has never been known to bite his tongue, said, it's just not a favorable thing to have this play-in tournament. So now this could work for the New Orleans Pelicans, a team that right now currently sits in the 11th spot. Now they got a whole lot of climbing to get up this hill. That sounds like a song from a TV show. Anyway, the Pelicans, I mean, very talented. I mean, this team really has no reason to not be considered a playoff team when you look at the talent that they have. But they're looking up to the Warriors, who is in the 10th spot, and the Spurs, who currently have that 9th spot. So all of those teams have a chance to get in. Well, at least the Spurs and the Warriors. The Pelicans have got some work to do, because they are 3 games right now out of the 10th spot, which does not, I mean, they are basically a lottery team right now. And I know that's not going to set well with the folks in New Orleans, who know they have a good product out there, but for some reason they just cannot, get the respect that they want. So anyway, lots of NBA action still left over the next couple of weeks. The playoffs will take place on Saturday, May 22nd, and we will keep you up to date with all of that. And just keep your eye on those 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds in both conferences, because those teams have a chance with 12 games remaining to get in there. So now it's time to bring on Jeff Lambert Sr., a.k.a. Mr. Picks. We are going to talk NFL props.
And Mr. Picks, boy, I tell you, you were on the road last week, my man.
Hey, MeanGene, I keep telling everybody, hey, you got to get in. You can't win if you don't play. If you don't bet, you can't win. So, hey, MeanGene, we went 5-0 on last week. So, hey, to all the listeners out there, hey, jump on the money train.
You know what? I mean, and we talking NBA too, because we were able to look at some games. I think there was like 8 or 9 NBA games last Saturday, and those games were played on Sunday, but you picked them Saturday on the show. And man, I knew it. I knew I should have went down to the Westgate and put the money down, but I didn't do it, Jeff.
Hey, I was wondering where you was at. I was looking behind me, and I thought everybody that was with me was at the booth with me, and no one was behind me.
And my boss, Mike Mike, he sent me a text and said, boy, Mr. Picks was on it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I hadn't got a chance to reach out to him yet. He might be still at the bank depositing.
Hey, well, check this out. Early on in the show, I talked about the NFL draft, which is going to take place next Thursday, April 29th. And in particular, I looked at the AFC West and what the needs would be, looked at the records and how they finished last season, and what they did in free agency, and what they would need to acquire in the draft. Now, that's that. But on the betting end of things, the NFL always, put those schedules out. The schedules will be out on May 12th this year. But it's those prop bets. And we talked about those prop bets a little bit last week on the show. And what we want to look at now is the AFC. What are the prop bets for any of those 4 teams? We talking Raiders, Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos to get to the Super Bowl. And I know you have that information, Mr. Picks.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Picks is always on top of the game. Hey, in the AFC West division, MeanGene, we got right now, if you was to go and place a wager down at your most favorite booking in Vegas, which I would always recommend you to go What is our favorite spot, MeanGene?
It's the Westgate. It's the Westgate Resort
Westgate.
Casino and Sportsbook. Why go anywhere else?
Exactly, the number one betting spot in the world. So at this point, MeanGene, Kansas City Chiefs are favored to go to the Super Bowl this year. And if you were to go and place a $100 bet, you would cash in. Right now, it's a minus 350. So a $100 bet on Kansas City going and winning the Super Bowl right now, you will win a $350, profit on that wagering $100.
Not bad.
Then, not bad. Then you have the Los Angeles Chargers as well. If you will place a $100 wager on the Chargers at a plus 450 wager, you will win $450 on the Chargers.
You know what, Jeff? Though, and I'm really surprised that the Chargers are so close to the Chiefs. I mean, I think the Chargers. What did they finish? I want to say 7-9. I think they were behind the Raiders in the final standings last year. So you're talking about a major improvement, and I mean, only $100 difference between the Chargers and the Chiefs. So there must be some big expectations for the Chargers this year.
I believe it is, man, doing this draft. And I think right now, and these, prop bets can change at any time. This is just what the standings are right now, so this can change at any point. It's kind of like with, Tampa Bay. The odds last year was 66 before I think they drafted Tom Brady with like 6,600 or something like that.
Plus 6,600, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Plus 6. So if you had a $100 bet on Tampa before they got Tom Brady, because it decreased, it dropped down then. But if you got them at a $100 bet, that was $6,600 you was gonna put in your pocket. Hey man, I'm telling you. So it's good to jump on these prop bets early, and anything can happen. Whoever, took Tampa Bay and they cashed in well last year. So back to the AFC West division, you have, the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now, the Las Vegas Raiders is at a plus 1,200. So if you put a $100 bet on the Raiders to go and win the Super Bowl this year, guys, you win $1,200.
And I expect a lot of that to happen. And I'm even more shocked because, like I said, the Raiders, I think they finished 8-8 last year, almost made the playoffs if it wasn't for that meltdown against in Miami, who all they needed to do was beat the Dolphins, and I think they would have been in the playoffs. But
true.
But it's and I'm not laughing at you, Raider fans. I'm laughing with you. Okay, so but here's the deal. But I'm still finding it hard to believe how the Chargers are that much favorite to get to the Super Bowl with a plus 350 and the Raiders are plus 1,200. I mean, I don't get it. I'm not understanding that one at all.
It's something that we are soon to find out why it's kind of real close like that right now. I mean, so it's an eye opener. So we're gonna watch that. And then last but not least, we have the Denver Broncos. Right now, Denver Broncos is a plus 1,400, and so with a $100 wager on Denver, you win $1,400.
I'm putting 200 on Denver, doggone it. I need to double those. That 2,800 sounds good in my bank.
Anything can happen.
Anything could happen. And I look, the Denver Broncos, I think they finished 5-11 on the season. And I spoke earlier in the show about what they need. I think I said they need every damn thing. I mean, whatever they can get in this draft, they gonna need it to try to get to the Super Bowl. And but interesting though. I mean, and now is the time to make those bets, because once the season starts, and then the odds drop just like they did with Tampa Bay, right?
Yes. Correct.
Wow.
And they drop
tremendously.
You guys get out there and you place your bet, jump on early, get in early now, because like you say, those odds can change. Because we're sitting here going back and forth over how close it is with the Chargers and the Chiefs, being just, that close. So, anything can change, Chargers could drop all the way to up under the Broncos. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right, man. Hey, Jeff Lambert Sr., a.k.a. Mr. Picks, you always bringing us the great information, man. And I tell you what, the folks in Vegas, they love you, man. We are just having so much fun here on KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM. And I know you'll come back next week with some more information because the draft would have already taken place. And pretty soon here, we're going to be talking NBA playoff odds and who's the favorite to win. And I think there's a chance to get those bets in before the NBA playoff starts too. Am I right?
Correct. Yes, sir. I'm going to have all the updates for you and, hey, give you some of the most profitable bets that you can go in and make your bets. And like I say, put some money in your pocket because the money train is on the move.
It's on the move, folks. And I think on that note, we're going to take it on home, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show. Want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, the Westgate Resort Casino and Sportsbook in Las Vegas, Presidential Limousine by Kaptyn.
Like I say, number one, man. I've been all over the country, man, basically. And, hey, I've never really went into places like that. It's just, hey, it's first class, man. You can never just put anything outside of being first class.
Absolutely, folks. So, hey, make sure you tune in next week. Same station, same time, 10 p.m. Pacific time here on the MeanGene Show on KDWN, 720 AM, 101.5 FM. Folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week.